Welcome everyone to episode one of Couch Coaches from the Couch, whatever we're calling it.
From the
Uh,
couch.
from the couch, whatever it is. I'm Peter Babb alongside my co-hosts Aiden Hunt and Levi Hunt. If you don't know, they're brothers. We're just out here talk about sports, enjoying a good time. Guys, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic, dude. I'm really excited to get started on really just getting into the thoughts of the sports world. We got a lot we can cover, and we all are big fans of sports, so I'm just really excited to start talking about them.
Yeah, I had a good day at work today, Peter. I'm just happy to be here, ready to get it going. I love sports. As you can tell, I got my representing. Obviously more to come from that, but I'm just happy to get to it. So ready to rock.
Yeah, now obviously, I just want to point this out to everyone. We are not experts. We are not insiders. We do not have any of this ball knowledge at all compared to most people in the industry. We are just out here reacting to sports news, giving our takes, giving our thoughts, maybe having some fun shenanigans here and there, but nothing too crazy. I definitely know I'm gonna give it out to Levi because Levi, what the heck is going on in the sports world right now?
Well, as we were getting ready for our first podcast, I felt like it would seem appropriate to actually start with this. Maxx Crosby, player from the Oakland Raiders, he just got traded to the Baltimore Ravens. He is now a
Huge,
Raven, according to Adam
absolutely
Schefter.
huge move from the
Yeah, that
Ravens
was
here.
crazy.
Not gonna lie.
And as we were going on, getting ready to set up and just talking about what we're going to discuss on the podcast, like we were even bringing up, like we just want to see where Maxx Crosby's destinations could be because it seemed like it was, coming sooner rather than later that he was going to be definitely getting traded. And right as we get started, we literally get that notification. He's going to the Baltimore Ravens, guys. Like, what are our thoughts on that?
I'll chime in first here. Obviously, as division rivals, scary, very scary for the Steelers. However, uh, I do expect I expect them to do good things with the Ravens. Obviously, I do expect the Steelers to find a way to shut him down. I mean, even though Miles Garrett has been easily one of the best pass rushers, if not the best pass rusher in the NFL, we've always found a way to kind of slow him down. Maybe with the exception of a year or two here or there, but we always kind of find a way to work with them. However, for other teams, maybe like, the exception of like maybe the Chargers, who might have Joe Alt, line up nearby, things like that. Like just guys who are really, really going to be on that same side lined up. I mean, even then, it's Max Crosby. So scary move from the Ravens, who already have such an amazing defense. I mean, just to be truthful.
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic move by the Ravens. The new coach Jesse Minter is very defensive minded, super aggressive, and I think this was just a fantastic move on both teams' part. I think that for the Raiders, you need to go into a full rebuild because they
Agreed.
are completely, for lack of a better term, the pinnacle of just straight up terrible in the National Football League. Like, obviously, that's up for debate. I mean, Jets fans out here would probably disagree with me on that because from the ownership standpoint. But for for the Raiders, it's like they needed to go into a rebuild. Their offensive line is terrible, and Maxx Crosby takes up $30 million in cap space. So
Pretty big gap.
For the Raiders, it's like you go from like, oh, like you're having about like $90 million in cap space to you have $120 million in cap space in a free agency where quite literally you can just splurge and just get whoever you want at whatever price and just again when Fernando Mendoza gets there because Geno Smith got released today,
Did
he's
he
gonna
get
have a
okay,
great.
I was gonna chime in on that. Did he get released? I thought I heard they were gonna try to trade him. If not, they were gonna release him to start the year.
He
I
he
might have been
got
incorrect.
he got released earlier today because let's be
Copy.
fair, and also too like Geno Smith was getting paid about like I think his contract was about like 25 to 30 million dollars. I think there were some incentives in on there, and he got released because like let's just be honest, like Geno Smith had almost 20 turnovers, just interceptions last year, and not including fumbles. And let's just be honest, like do you want to have a guy that's above the age of 30, turnover prone, and has not shown that he can excel with not a great supporting cast? No, like I don't blame them. I think Geno Smith's going to go back to kind of what he was before he was a starting quarterback for Seattle, which is the fact that he's going to be a backup.
I
But
agree.
back to Maxx Crosby. Great for Maxx Crosby. He gets to go into a division that, think about it, you have TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, and Maxx Crosby all in the same division, and then you have whatever the heck the Cincinnati Bengals is going to throw out. So overall, like if you are the Cincinnati Bengals, specifically Joe Burrow, please seek help because you need it.
As you know, as a Steelers fan too, it just sucks because given our situation right now where we're trying to figure out a quarterback, now we got to deal with Maxx Crosby as well as someone to go up against our QB every time we have an opponent in the North. And so all I can say is like again, Maxx Crosby is a great player, but man, it's going to be scary having to go up all against all of our North rivals and see how our QB can fare up against that, which that'll be something we'll get into. But from everything that they're doing right now, like this is a great move on them. This kind of gets me into what we were going to talk about a little bit more. Is like some of the other trades, specifically like with DJ Moore. Like as a Bears fan, Peter, I'm kind of curious on your thoughts on that because it almost seemed like maybe the Bears were going to potentially try and be a trade partner for Maxx Crosby, hence maybe getting rid of DJ Moore. So I kind of was curious on your thoughts on the DJ Moore trade and your thoughts on losing out on Maxx Crosby.
If I may quickly chime in before you get on that, Peter, I wanted to hit on your point of all the great pass rushers in the North. Obviously you mentioned TJ Watt and you mentioned Myles Garrett and then obviously Maxx Crosby. I do want to give a quick shout out to Trey Hendrickson for the Bengals, who's been an absolute stud over there. Whether or not they keep him, there's obviously been something up in the air. I think they franchise tagged him, if I'm not mistaken.
No, they didn't. He's a free agent.
Okay. So we'll see what happens with him then if they do retain him or not. But assuming he stays, that is a great pass rusher from every team in the North, which is, I mean, it's not necessarily hard to come by, but I would say it's rare. You don't see that very often. So
yeah, I mean, getting 10 sacks in an NFL season is like one of the hardest feats for any pass rusher in the National Football League. Like obviously, like Myles Garrett broke the sack record last year. TJ Watt literally broke the sack record a couple seasons prior to that. And then like you add in Maxx Crosby, who mind you, like the Ravens defense, obviously last year schematically was bad, but you bring in Jesse Minter, who is very defensive minded, who's going to get the secondary fix, who's going to put on a ton of pressure from the linebackers and the defensive line. Like Maxx Crosby could potentially be like a 15 plus sack person next year, which is crazy.
Hard to believe.
Yeah. But back to what you were saying, Levi. For the Bears, it's hard for me to say like I was all in on Maxx Crosby. Because the problem is like the Bears right now are so like tight knit on the cap, and they had so many issues that they had to address. Like Drew Dahlman just retired, so they had to address center, which they addressed today. You got Garrett Bradbury from the Patriots. They have to address left tackle because Ozzie Trapio is going to be out for all of next season with an injury. And then you have to address the secondary for the Bears, which right now they have no safeties on the roster. And you have to completely add depth to the secondary as well because the corners, again, I love Jalen Johnson, love Kyler Gordon, love Tyreek Stevenson. But outside those three guys, there's not much depth to that core. And as well as the fact that they need to find a replacement for Tremaine Edmonds. So I think overall, like, was I sad that we didn't get Maxx Crosby? Yeah, because, I mean, you're losing out one of the premier pass rushers. But this draft class is stacked of just great defensive players from top down. They got a lot of depth in terms of the pass rushers. So I think that overall, like, it sucks, but I understand the reason why I think the Bears were kind of hesitant. Because, I mean, you just look at the asking price for what the Ravens paid for Maxx Crosby. It's 2 first-round picks. And the last time the Bears did that, they got Khalil Mack, and it kind of bit them in the end because, like, again, like, not to diss on Khalil Mack, he was a great Bears player, but overall, like, I think the Bears are kind of in a nice spot. But again, I think they want to address some certain areas other than just getting Maxx Crosby, who would have hit them really hard in the cap.
Yeah. Absolutely. Go ahead, Aiden.
No, I was just going to say kinda I was gonna ask, again, as our resident Bears fan, um, Tremaine Edmonds, I didn't hear about that. Is he or
He's
wait, was he with
released.
the he was released?
He was
Really?
released. Yes.
Okay, I didn't hear
Yeah,
about
he was
that.
released. I think just last night.
Is that
Because
to
obviously,
avoid cap hit or is that
yeah, it's a cap hit. He would have
production?
had seven. He would have had $17 million cap hit on the
Mm,
Bears next season, and by releasing him this offseason, they saved $15 million
okay, yeah,
on the
that's
cap.
a
So
smart move, yeah,
yeah, the Bears went from around like they had about like I think it was like $8-9 million like prior to Dolman retiring to now they got about just about $32 million in cap. But again, it just goes back to like they need to address a lot of different issues on the defensive end
for
than
sure.
just edge rusher. Who again, you in this draft class you can easily get a edge rusher.
Yeah, 100%. I like the mention of the draft class because just I mean, if we look, I mean, let's talking defensively. And again, I try not to be biased, of course, but you can't help but look at just these Ohio State guys. You know, you look at Arvell Reese, you look at Sonny Styles. Lorenzo Styles had an unbelievable or a pretty solid combine. Sonny Styles, excuse me, had an unbelievable combine. I think from what I heard, he was like darn close to putting up a 10.0 PAR score, I believe is what it's called, which is unheard of. I think it was like a 9.9 is what I last heard. And then, just a guy like Caleb Downs, who, if you guys haven't heard, they're currently talking about potential injury problems with him. From what I've heard, though, he also said or I've heard both sides. I should say, I've heard that it's just kind of normal wear and tear. I've heard that it could be potentially more than that. So things like that are obviously concerning. But and then guys like Kenyon Sadiq, I believe from Oregon. I think he's a defensive end. You might want to fact
He is
check
a
me on
tight.
that.
He's
Tight
a tight
end.
end.
Tight
Oh,
end.
he's a tight end. Okay, that's my bad. I just saw him in like a compilation and it was like all defensive players and then him. So that's why I just assumed he was a. That's my bad. But yeah,
Yeah,
no, but I mean, like you mentioned though, it's gonna be a deep draft for defensive players in general. So we'll see. Like you said, I think the Bears will find their guy at the end of the day. Especially coming off two great seasons. Just keep going.
yeah.
The Chicago Bears, they will be drafting 25 in this year's NFL draft. They're actually right now projected, according to Mel Kiper, Caden McDonald, defensive tackle from Ohio State. So
Mm.
it'll be interesting to see
Good
in this
pickup
continued.
there too.
That's for sure. It'll be interesting to see what they continue to do in this offseason as we get closer to the draft. Some other guys that were traded this past week. David Montgomery. David Montgomery. He went to where did he go? Did you guys
The
actually forgot?
Texans.
The Texans. Yes. For the Texans who currently are sitting with Nick Chubb and Joe Mixon right now.
Well, they
What are your
just
guys'
released Joe
thoughts?
Mixon. Yeah, they just released Joe Mixon today,
They did.
from what I
Okay.
saw. So it's their backfield is going to consist of Nick Chubb, Woody
Mhm.
Marks, and now David Montgomery, which they're going for a
Montgomery.
very like power back like
What?
oriented running back
Yeah.
core.
What are your guys' thoughts on that? I mean, I'm suspecting that David Montgomery showing up in Houston. I suspect he could potentially have a shot at running back one. I mean, if we're looking at Nick Chubb now, who's he's had quite a great career, but he has dealt with some serious injuries throughout his time, and I just suspect that this move by the Lions to take him to Texans, I suspect that we could be seeing Montgomery maybe play a larger role than what he did in Detroit. Him and Gibbs together was great. I love that duo. I mean, I had them both in fantasy last year, but you could obviously tell in this past year's season, Jameer Gibbs is clearly their number one guy. So it'll be really interesting to see what they do with David Montgomery and Texans. So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I would like to say I found my guy. I was thinking of Jacob Rodriguez out of Texas Tech. So that's a hand up moment right there. Especially considering he's white and Kenyon Sadiq isn't white. Anyways, so that's the point. So we'll go ahead and move on to what you were saying with the. I think it's a great move. Hear me out. David Montgomery might be getting up there a little bit in the age. I believe he's like 30.
28.
Okay, so he's 28. So he's getting older for especially for a running back. Especially considering running backs aren't a premium really anymore. Think about all these guys who I mean, outside of what, maybe your Saquon, CMC,
Jameer
that might
Gibbs.
be it. Like you're not getting too many guys who are on these premier contracts. You're not looking, think about Steelers. Steelers, I think the Rams, the Bears, I mean, all these teams that have just been running through running backs, Vikings, you can keep going. It's a new running back almost every year. You know what I'm saying? Um, so I think it's a good move. Um, Especially for the Texans who had a lot of trouble running the ball, especially inside, like I think it's like inside 5 yards. I believe we're like one of the worst rushing teams in the league last year, if I'm not mistaken. They could not, and I would know because I had what's his name? Oh
They have
dear.
Woody
Woody
Marks.
Allen. Yeah, Woody Marks. Yeah, Woody Marks. So I know. I was there. I witnessed it all. And so I think it's a good move for them. It's a good power back. I think he should help, hopefully. I mean, obviously blocking is important, but it should help them, get over that hump and give them a little bit more depth, but we'll see.
I think also too, like for the Texans, like they were one of the worst rushing attack teams last year. And I definitely tell, like, just by the way that CJ Stroud played last year, a lot was put on his shoulder of like, hey, go out and win the game for us, including like Davis Mills. Like, Davis Mills had to go out there and like literally win 3 of 4 games as the star when CJ Stroud went out. And really, overall, like Woody Marks, like, again, he's great. He's a great young running back, but he's super inconsistent. Like, from a game in, game out basis, like, he can either have like 80 yards rushing with like 40 yards receiving and have a couple touchdowns, to he's doing nothing on the ground game and has no touches receiving. And I think for David Montgomery, like, again, I saw him play as a Bear. I saw him play as a Detroit Lion. Um, he can do great in both. I think that David Montgomery also brings a great veteran presence to the team. But overall, like, I think the Houston Texans, like, they got a great running back pretty much at a really good price, like a 5th round pick for David Montgomery, especially in this running back market where not a lot is going on. Like, I know Travis Etienne's in the free agent market, but there's not a lot of like good, consistent running backs on a year in, year out basis as David Montgomery.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of like what Aiden touched upon, stating that running backs are just not as much of a premium nowadays in the league, which kind of gets me to who I was wanting to talk about tonight, Kenneth Walker. The Seahawks decided to make him, they franchise tagged him, which is very interesting, especially them coming up after their Super Bowl champion, and they had Kenneth Walker as their Super Bowl MVP. I mean, he was their best player out there during their Super Bowl run. So it was very interesting to me on how they decided to franchise tag them, which kind of just gets into the point of kind of what Aiden was saying is running backs are just not as much of a premium nowadays. Kenneth Walker is 25, so I mean he's not quite as old as David Montgomery right now, but it kind of brings me to a conversation I was having with some buddies today. We were just kind of discussing, when it comes to the players that need to get paid, obviously your QBs, your wide receivers, your linemen, and your defense. I think the whole point that I was kind of thinking about was, the QB is again the main one in charge when it comes to on-field production. So like think of like Joe Burrow, somebody who wants to have a great line or needs great wide receivers surrounding him. When you're just handing the ball off to a guy to go run, it just doesn't seem like it's as crucial to just hand that ball off and have a guy to run that ball. And I think that kind of just kind of gives me my take on the whole state of Kenneth Walker's franchise tag. I think it makes sense. But still, you would think that the Seahawks would maybe come to some type of deal, just given the history and especially his crucial play in that Super Bowl this past
Mhm.
season. So, but what do you guys think about that?
I think really when it comes to Kenneth Walker, everyone knows the Super Bowl tax. When you win the Super Bowl, players are going to be like, "Well, I want more money because I won a Super Bowl with this team." And for Kenneth Walker, it's like I also got Super Bowl MVP, and I was the main driving force outside of JSN that helped propel this team, offensively speaking, to get to the Super Bowl. And I understand, like for Seahawks fans, like they're going to be like, "Well, he was splitting snaps with Zach Charbonnet." But like for Kenneth Walker, it's like, yeah, he's 25, but it's like his play is like extremely limited. Like again, he's a great elusive back. He kind of reminds me a lot like James Cook in that sense. But is he worth like $20 million? The answer is no. I mean, I think that he'd be good if he was like 15, maybe $16 million. But like getting Saquon Barkley money in this market, it's just not going to happen because really, like, again, for a lot of these teams, like, what's it going to be for them? Like, paying Kenneth Walker like 15, $16 million a year, or find someone in this year's draft class that, again, like, it's not great for running backs or really offense in general for this draft class, but it saves so much in terms of their cap space because a lot of these teams are just super, super conscientious of we got to save up money for future players that their contracts are coming up pretty much at like literally next season.
I think that's a good point from you, Peter, mentioning Charbonnet specifically, because I was going to bring up that same point. I thought Charbonnet got a lot of work and stole a lot, honestly, from, I mean, you just, again, go back to the whole fantasy point. You ask any fantasy manager what they thought of Zach Charbonnet, specifically Kenneth Walker owners, and they'll talk, and all you'll see is, oh my goodness, I can't stand Zach Charbonnet. This guy stole every touchdown from Kenneth Walker, it felt like. And so it was really interesting to see in the playoffs, specifically the Super Bowl, Charbonnet got little to no work from what I recall. Um, so I do agree that there's a weird spot right now that Kenneth Walker is in. However, I do think that he is more likely to rise in production. Um, I think you because you said maybe limited. I think it's actually only going to go up from here because of the MVP in the Super Bowl. They see, okay, we can rely on Kenneth. We can hand him the ball, 20 times a game and him get reliable yardage. Obviously, again, there's a lot of factors that go into that. They played the Patriots, who a lot of people called frauds because of their schedule, things like that. So is he going to do that against a Ravens defense? Is he going to do that against a 49ers defense? We are not 100% sure, but I do think that his production is only going to be on the rise. He's just coming off his rookie contract. That's the hard part. Is that he's just now coming off his rookie contract, which means
Mhm.
he's due to get paid. Like, so that's going to be the hardest part for. So I do think this is a really smart franchise tag out of the Seahawks, excuse me. um, I'm just, where are they going to go from there is definitely the question. Um, Not franchise tagged, excuse me. Sorry. What was it again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, Kenneth Walker is a free agent this year. He didn't get franchise tag.
That's
Oh,
right. He's free agent.
I
Yeah,
think Levi
Okay, yeah,
mentioned at the beginning he said franchise tag, so that
yeah.
is why I got
right, yeah,
confused.
but yeah,
Thank
so
you.
yeah, free
Yeah,
agent. So even
sorry. Even
crazier.
harder. Yeah, so it just makes it even
Yeah,
harder. I
and that's
mean,
why I was saying like there's so many teams that right now. Let's be honest, like there's a lot of teams out there that need a running back. Like a lot of teams, like
for sure.
Tennessee needs a running back. Washington probably needs to find somebody to be the bell cow in their running back room because it's been a mess over there. Arizona probably needs to find their running back. Pittsburgh definitely needs to find their running back because I know you guys have Jalen Warren, but it's like he's not the level that I think that they need to, especially like for the ground game. And like the problem is again, like all these teams, like yeah, well, sure, we want to get a premium running back, but at the same time, like they don't want to pay like 15, 16, 17, 18, maybe $20 million. We don't know what the asking price for Kenneth Walker is. But again, I think that's why for Kenneth Walker, it's like, I'm pretty sure he was talking to the Seahawks. He wanted to get a big contract, and the Seahawks were like, no, because the main reason why we won was the fact that we had one of the best defenses that we've had since the Legion of Boom. And they want to keep that core together. And I think, again, I think your guys' point, to Levi's point, like, running backs are on a premium. Like, you can easily find like good, decent bell cow running back in like the 5th or 6th round. Heck, the Bears found Cal Monungai in the 7th round. He was a 1,000-yard rusher. So, I mean, you can find somebody. It's just a matter of, do you have the building blocks in place to actually be a good rushing team? And I think for a lot of the teams that need a running back, the answer is no. Like Las Vegas, look what happened with Ashton Genty. He was literally, we all know the meme of like, he had more yards after contact than he actually had like rushing yards, which
That's
was
pretty
crazy.
wild.
But it goes back to the fact of like if the teams just don't competently build their offensive line or build some type of offensive system where, sure, like, let's just point this out. Like, let's go back to when Joe Burrow was going to Super Bowl. Like, their rushing attack was terrible. They weren't good. But they were like, they could still get some rushing yards. But, like, Kenneth Walker, it's like, he's good, but he's not like Saquon Barkley or Christian McCaffrey, where it's like their value is like super sky high. Like, again, like, are you afraid of Kenneth Walker being in the passing game? The answer is no. Like, I'm more afraid of like, where the heck is CMC going than I am of like, where's Kenneth Walker going in the backfield?
Yeah, that's a good point. You pointed out too with Kyle Monungai being 1,000-yard rusher. Kenneth Walker barely cracked 1,000 yards in the regular season. He's 1,027 yards, 5 touchdowns in the regular season. For reference, he had 4 touchdowns throughout the playoffs. So again, I kind of do stand by my point where I do think his production will only be on the rise. But again, especially with now the correction of he is just an undrafted, or he's now just a free agent, excuse me. I mean, that just makes it even harder. Because he's due to get paid. He's coming off that rookie contract. Uh, how much is the question? What's that number supposed to be? The Seahawks, like you mentioned, probably aren't going to be willing to pay it, but I mean, we never know, obviously. Uh, we'll see. Yeah, we'll just have to see where that goes.
Yeah. And going to a running back's offensive partner, the wide receiver. We learned this week that George Pickens ended up getting franchise tagged, which to me, as a Steelers fan, not trying to be biased or anything, he was a great player when he was in Pittsburgh, and it was a pretty good move for Dallas to try and acquire him. So, and his production was very good this year. But to me, again, despite my bias, I was a little surprised that they decided to franchise tag a player like him. Do you guys know what like the who's would right now say your wide receiver one is in Dallas?
CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb still.
Mm-hmm. Would you guys say that like after CeeDee Lamb that George Pickens would be that second guy?
I don't think there's really anybody else in Dallas to really be the second guy.
I mean, like maybe like Ferguson, the tight end, but like even then, it's like I mean, let's be honest. Like George Pickens, like CeeDee Lamb was out for a majority of this year, and like George Pickens just straight up like took the reins on wide receiver one, and he became like a top 5 wide receiver this past year in the NFL. And I should know because I had him on my fantasy team, and I didn't think that he was going to get the numbers that he was going to get. But it just goes to show, like, George Pickens, like, a lot of the issues that he had in Pittsburgh, I think, were primarily due to the fact that he didn't really have a good enough of supporting cast around him to help him get freed up and have the yards that he had. But, who am I to say about that?
Well, he definitely wasn't used appropriately. I can tell you that much.
George Pickens' contract right now with Dallas was $27 million. He was taking up 9% of their cap space. CeeDee Lamb's there. He has a contract for $19 million. So to to me, it just seems very shocking that, especially after his production he's had with the Cowboys this year, given Lamb's injury, that they would go the route of franchise tagging him. I mean, what do you think is going through their minds right now? What's Jerry Jones thinking at this point? Do you think they're making the right decision on franchise tagging him?
Yes, 100%.
I agree. Yes, absolutely. I think
Because
he's an all in my opinion, he's an all-star caliber player, all pro, whatever. He's probably gonna be due for, 2 or 3 Pro Bowls in his career minimum. I mean, he really is that guy, in my opinion. I really liked him, like you mentioned with the Steelers. I thought he was phenomenal. Um, and it's why that move of DK Metcalf and then just turning around and trading George Pickens made no sense. Like that's why that hurt so much. Um, and I do think he could be the number one guy in Dallas should they decide it's time to move on from CD.
yeah, I think overall, like it made sense in the moment. It made sense in the moment for really overall, like Jerry to franchise tag him because again, like there's so many teams really right now that want to have a premium wide receiver one, and everyone knows like George Pickens can be that talent wise. And a lot of people in Pittsburgh knew he could do that because he has the talent to do it. The problem is the fact that can one, his attitude adjust, which so far in Dallas has been the case. But also, two, it's like, can he actually like find that and get that next level? And he found that with Dak Prescott and really the Dallas Cowboys. With let's just be honest, like CeeDee Lamb was out for a vast majority this year, and their running game was okay at best. But for Jerry Jones, like it made sense. Like, and let's be honest, Jerry wants his stars, and George Pickens is a star in this league. And albeit Jerry's like, I'm willing to negotiate with you as long as it's a good price for the franchise.
You gotta have the handshake negotiation. Remember the handshake.
Yeah, the good old handshake negotiation.
Yeah.
But I think overall, like it makes sense for Jerry to do it to have that same continuity. Because let's be honest, like again, I love CeeDee Lamb and I love Dak Prescott, but there's only so much they can actually do on offense when it's just the two of them. And we saw that in years past. Like, yeah, sure, CeeDee Lamb is going to be breaking records, but it's like he needs a co-star, and George Pickens is that great co-star for him.
I would like to add then on that same note is what do we think about Dak Prescott? What do we think of his future with Dallas? Do we think there is a longer future there? Do we think he might be coming towards the end of his tenure with Dallas? What do we think of that?
I think he's going to finish out his career in Dallas because it makes no sense. Like, because really, like Dak Prescott is still like arguably a top 10 quarterback in the league, especially after this past season. But I think he'll finish out his career. I think that there's going to be a lot of like renegotiating in terms of his contract because it is pretty big. Like, I think he's like either like he's in the top five or he is like top three in terms of like
Dak Dak
AAV.
Prescott is the highest paid player in all of the NFL. He
He's
has a
currently a
4 year.
$43 million cap hit to the Cowboys this upcoming year.
He takes a lot of their cap space. I would assume that you know, given their history and his tenure there at Dallas, he's been a pretty decent quarterback, and I think personally that any team would be lucky to have Dak Prescott. Um, but it's only a matter of time if nothing continues to go right in Dallas, like it always seems to be. Um, I would assume that maybe at one point he would start to be requesting to get traded at some point. Maybe even regardless of what he's getting paid. If he wants to go and try and win a championship, it may not happen with Dallas.
Right. And I think the problem with really Dak, again, like I think the problems are right now, like if you get rid of Dak, who are you replacing him with?
That's
Like
a good
who's
question.
out there like who out there right now? Like I hate to break it to you all, like if you're having the conversation of like, oh, do you want Malik Willis or Dak Prescott? I'm taking Dak Prescott 10 times out of 10. do you want like Kyler Murray or do you want Dak Prescott? I'm taking Dak Prescott because I definitely know Dak has his moments, and I definitely know Dallas fans can attest to that. But for really the Dallas Cowboys in general, like he's going to make Cowboy for life, and it's just a matter of like you have to get through this contract, and then you can have that discussion of like, well, he's going to be in his mid-30s by the time that his contract ends, and then it's a matter of like, okay, how much do you get paid now, and who's available? Because right now the quarterback market right now, like it's as soon as you get out of the top 10, like it's like there's some arguments, but it's pretty scarce.
And you talk about Malik Willis. Malik Willis is a free agent right now, so it would be interesting to see if either any team or the Cowboys specifically maybe make a move on a young guy like Malik Willis. He's had a pretty good career with the Packers so far. When Jordan Love has been absent from the games, I like what he's done, but I think the biggest thing is with just how much they're spending, how much they're paying Dak Prescott right now. It would seem kind of silly for them to be going after somebody else, given like their whole financial situation there in Dallas.
Right.
Yeah, on the note of receivers where we just were, I'll go ahead and transition us over real quick and we can talk about I think Tyreek Hill and just the Dolphins in general, really. Tyreek Hill being released, and then I saw earlier today that they're also releasing Alec Ingold, which isn't really that big of a move, and Jason Sanders, which I actually do think is kind of a weird move because I felt like he was a really good kicker. That's just me personally. But again, not like their cap situation is like terrible from what I know. So I'm not too surprised that they're just making moves to make moves really at this point. Like you kind of have to. Uh but I'll focus specifically here on Tyreek and you know, I think the big question right now is who's gonna go for Tyreek Hill. You know, he's had some problems specifically in Miami. What those problems aren't necessarily football related outside of his broken foot. If I'm not mistaken, is there a broken foot? Um,
He's had some ankle problems, and like also like everyone knows about the concussions.
yeah. Let's see. It was a torn ACL. Okay, so he tore his ACL. So I mean, as the fastest receiver in the NFL, I don't think he's coming off of a torn ACL, the fastest receiver in the NFL, more than
Oh
likely.
my bad! I thought you were talking about Tua with
No,
his
sorry.
injury
No, I was
history.
on Tyreek. Yeah, no, Tyreek with the torn ACL. I thought it was his foot, it was his ACL. Um,
Yeah, because like his
yeah,
whole
it's
entire knee went like 9 degrees in that one game, and
that's
everyone's like,
right.
"Oh,
Yeah.
Oh
because
yeah, I remember that.
yeah." I think that was on what,
Um,
Monday Night Football.
That's a great
man,
question.
I think it was
Yes.
on Monday Night
Yeah,
Football
yeah, it was.
broadcast.
Yeah.
we'll have to find a clip on that if someone even has that out
No,
there.
so the internet can find that. We are not putting
Yeah,
that on the
we
pod.
are not gonna be
No.
putting that on the pod.
We're going to get
But
age
then
restricted.
it's the big thing of behavior problems. Again, a lot of outside of football problems. You know what I'm saying? Is so, and I saw. I don't remember if it was Ryan Clark. Again, I don't want to just throw names out there to buzzwords, if you will. But I believe he said like there will be their owners going for Tyreek Hill. You know what I'm saying? Because he is still Tyreek Hill. He is a veteran presence at the end of the day. So there is probably someone out there that will say, and they give him the veteran minimum. That's it, like just veteran minimum. So I personally don't see the benefit of adding him, outside of the veteran presence because you're just bringing on a locker room full of problems, in my opinion.
the
I
uh, the Chiefs have the chance to do the funniest thing ever.
bring him back and reunite Kelsey, Mahomes, and Hill
If
for
it's
one last hurrah.
if it, I was gonna say if it's Kelsey's last year this year, this would be like their perfect opportunity to go win a Super Bowl together once more.
Right. I think the problem with Tyreek Hill is really the owners and the GMs are asking one question: does the talent outweigh the problems? And by what I mean by that is, I mean, you guys probably know this. We can all look back at Antonio Brown.
Yeah,
Antonio
Yeah.
Brown is a perfect example of
sure can.
does the problems outweigh the talent or vice versa? And the answer 9 times out of 10 is no. It is an absolute one. It's a PR nightmare if you are someone that is of like a Tyreek Hill or someone of like, you know, a player that has like a problem like off the field issues. And really for a lot of these teams, like again, like you can sign to a vet minimum because he's what, like 32, 33 years old, I believe.
32.
32. The problem is that Tyreek Hill, one, he's coming off an ACL entry, and two, his speed is the only thing that is actually like worth noting in his skill set. And the problem is coming off an ACL injury, we don't know if he's going to get back to that speed. And we definitely know that we have seen him over the last few seasons in Miami slow down. Not like all of a sudden, but it's like you can definitely tell he doesn't have that quick speed. And teams have already figured out, like, hey, like if we just play cover two and just send a guy down deep, we're all good. Like you just need a competent safety. And Tyreek Hill, I think the problem is that he just has so many off the field issues that one, legally speaking, you have no idea if he's going to be in the league next year. But also, two, it's like, I don't want this, like my team, to be a constant PR like nightmare week in and week out on NFL Network or ESPN or whatever football network it's on. I just think it's a nightmare.
Yeah, that would be. And we could talk about. I could talk about the Antonio Brown stuff. I could rant about that in another day. But just to kind of touch on your point, yeah, I mean that is a PR nightmare. Everything that those guys do off the field, the NFL. It's not like they want to have a bad output. They don't want to. They don't want to have bad media. They would probably say that any media is good media, but when it comes to the athletes, the stars of the NFL, whatever they say out there can be a complete mess. And just with everything going on in Tyreek Hill's life, everything he's been dealing with outside of football, it just sounds like you said, it's not. It's just not worth the fight
I mean,
anymore.
just take a look at what happened with Stephon Diggs. Like Stephon
Yeah,
Diggs, like literally, like, he had a resurgence in his career coming off of a torn ACL with the Patriots. Went to the Super Bowl, and look what happened. Like he's literally now fighting for whether or not he's going to be out of jail or not for quite literally a vast majority of his life. And the Patriots are like, no, we are not going to be paying you money because you are such a pain in the neck off the field.
It's a good
Like,
point with Stephon Diggs. That's a great point with Stephon Diggs.
it's been a mess. Just this whole situation with both of these players. Again, it's just not something you want to probably be fighting for. They might not be worth giving the money to, especially if they're going to come with all this drama.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you want to talk fighting, how about we talk about fighting for March Madness spots? We go look at college basketball. Specifically, I'll touch on some of that Big Ten action. I mean, you look at a team like on the bubble. You're looking at Ohio State. You're looking at, I think Iowa might be on the, or Indiana maybe might be on the bubble potentially. I don't know if they're officially out. I know Peter. I believe you were watching. It was Valparaiso and Bradley earlier fighting for spots potentially.
yeah, yeah. The Missouri Valley tournament is going on right now, and for those that don't know, like the Missouri Valley is like known to be like one of the best, like non-power four conferences when it comes to March Madness. I think in like the last like 17 March Madnesses, they're like 13-4 in
Wow.
like the round of like 64. It's insane. Like they're very, very good. And yeah, like Bradley just edged out Valparaiso, but earlier today, Drake Bulldogs beat the Belmont Bruins, and the Belmont was like the favorite going into that tournament, and they lost, I think, by 21. They lost like
Yeah.
100-79.
Yep.
And it's crazy because now like again, like the Missouri Valley is now wide open because now I think it's boiled down to like UIC beat I think they beat Murray State earlier today, and then Bradley just edged out Valparaiso in double OT, and then right now Illinois State is right now playing against Northern Iowa. So it's gonna be interesting, but also like if you're a sicko, if you're like down the trenches, that Sun Belt Conference tournament, that's a gauntlet, and if you're like down the trenches watching that tournament, it's awesome.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but does conference tournaments do they start this weekend or is this upcoming week?
I
It'd
think
be this upcoming week, I think.
yeah, I think
Upcoming week.
most of the non-power four conference tournaments are this weekend, and I
Yeah.
think the following weekend it's like the A10 conference has their uh, conference tournament. Obviously, all the power four schools have their conference tournament because I think they all have to wrap it up by next weekend because I think Selection Sunday is not this upcoming Sunday, which again we're recording this on March 6th. So I think like the selection show has to be, I think, what is it, like March? I think it's like 15th is that selection Sunday.
Mhm.
So most of them have to get wrapped up by next week.
Well, I'll tell you too. I mean, I haven't watched a lot of Ohio State basketball this year, but I know it's been kind of an up and down season. You know, a couple
That's to
days
say the
ago,
least.
a couple of days ago they did upset number 8 Purdue. So right now they're on that edge of the bubble to even get in a spot in the tournament. They do have a game coming up here tomorrow against Indiana. So given just our whole spiel with Indiana, especially in football, just hoping that they can give themselves a good resume to make a shot at the tournament. But I know you have more thoughts since you paid a little more attention to Ohio State basketball this season. I mean, what are your thoughts on their chances?
Yeah, so a good question. And yeah, I've been watching a lot of just Big Ten basketball in general. I'll quickly hit on the current bubble teams in terms of the Big Ten are UCLA, Iowa, Ohio State, and Indiana. Um, this upcoming week, this tomorrow, actually, I believe, Ohio State and Indiana play. So for Ohio State, again, they're kind of right now at a situation where there's two camps. There's the camp of they're just in, and then there's the camp of win one and they're in, whether that be a Big Ten tournament game or the game against Indiana. There aren't too many people in the camp of there aren't I mean, you would think like because of that, if you lose both, they're probably out. There aren't too many people that think that. Like again, there are a lot of people that think that right now we're just in. So I'm kind of in the camp of like win one of the next two. Doesn't matter whether it be the Big Ten tournament game or the Indiana game. I think as long as we win one of those two, we're in and we're fine. I'd be a lot more nervous if we lose the next two straight. But again, I do think we edge it out at the end of the day. In terms of Ohio State basketball again, I just want to highlight Bruce Thornton, currently fourth year starter, I believe. I don't think he's fifth year. I believe he's like straight four. About to be the all time leading scorer, more than likely for Ohio State. Just needs 12 points to pass. I believe uh,
Isn't it Evan Turner?
it's not Evan Turner. Sorry, I'm trying to recall. I think it's like Don Woodson, something. Dennis Hobson. Okay, not close at all. Dennis Hobson. He's currently 12 points away from passing him as the all-time leading scorer for Ohio State. Um, so very, very fun opportunity for Ohio State to go do. They're currently a projected 10 seed as well. So, you know, that's what 10 plays four. Does that sound
10 plays
right?
7.
7? Oh, okay. So then you're with that in mind, you're looking at a potential matchup against Miami, Utah State, Georgia, or Wisconsin are the current projected 7 seeds. So hopefully it's not Wisconsin because we've already beat them this year, and I really don't want to give them the opportunity for revenge. But I also would love to play Georgia because they knocked us out of the NIT. I don't recall if it was last year or the year before. So I would love to just get a nice revenge game in against them. I think would be fun.
Very cool. Yeah, we'll be we'll be watching them pretty closely then. Peter, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, I think overall, like, there's just a lot of just. I just want to point out, like, I definitely know, like, I just didn't get this off my chest because it kind of grinds my gears when it comes to the way the NCAA is formatted. I absolutely despise the fact that really the tournament committee focuses so much on name and brand over like quality of teams. Because let's
I
be honest, like,
agree.
there's a lot of great non-power four teams that don't get into the tournament. Like a ton. My perfect example is like, do you guys remember like Indiana State back in like I think it was like 2022 or 2023?
Yeah.
Where like they had like 32 wins, like everyone like and they lost like their conference championship game to Drake. And a lot of people are like, no matter what, they're locked in. Like they should be like an 8, 9, maybe a 10 spot. And the NCAA committee is like, no, like they're not going to get in. And like they just select like Michigan State, who was like 19-14 that year. Statistically, had like one of the worst like stats resumes in the whole entire like group that was like being selected for an at-large bid. And Indiana State was like, yeah, go play the NIT. Like I absolutely despise the way that March Madness is ran because there should be so many more non-power four teams in March Madness because like there's a lot of cool storylines, there's a lot of cool things to talk about for these non-power four programs instead of like, oh, like, hey, by the way, here's UCLA that's like 20-10 and like they are terrible on the road. And they have like a bunch of guys that are going to transfer out next season. Like that's not interesting to me. I want to be like, hey, who are like these young guys that are like overlooked and they went to, you know, let's say they went to like the American school and they had a fantastic season. Like they had like 25, 26, 27 wins and they have a good quality program, but they lost in their conference tournament and then they get like just it out. Like that's what grinds my gears and it annoys me in no end.
No, that's a great point because I mean we're seeing it right now, actually, currently with Miami of Ohio. Um, about I think they're fighting tonight for their perfect season. And as of right now, actually, I just pulled it up. They are currently up 59-50, so they're on track for a perfect season at this point. Um,
And then you have Bruce Pearl out here saying like, "Oh, if they lose, like they're not going to get in." It's like, what do you mean? Like they'd be the first 30+ win team, like that. Like potentially, this could be the only undefeated team going into March Madness that potentially, if they don't win the MAC, like they could be like nixed out, and I would be so upset.
and I like, again, you bring up that point. They are currently at a 31% chance to make March Madness at this point, which is, in my opinion, that's terrible. Like that's actually just terrible. Like you can't have that. I mean, again, it, who cares what these legacy schools are saying? You can't just say, "Oh, we're the bigger brand, we should be in." You know, I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of what it is. It's just these schools lobbying for the bigger schools to make it and not for the smaller schools because they think, oh, these smaller schools aren't going to be able to compete. But you look back at UMBC, you look back at the Loyola Chicago run. I mean, those aren't schools that were supposed to compete. You look at last year alone with Oakland and teams like
Yes.
that. I There's no reason those teams should have been competing. Or a couple years ago with Ohio State being beat by Oral Roberts. I mean, it's just all these small schools. And so I think it's a travesty the way that they're currently leaning for the modern March Madness. It truly is a travesty that these teams are doing such good things and yet they're currently might not even make it. I think that's bad for the sport personally.
Well, in Levi, here's the thing: what in your mind is more sexy? Would you rather have the blue blood that everyone goes, "Oh, I know that school," or "Oh, I know someone. Oh, that's where that school that's where Russell Westbrook went to school, right?" Or "Oh, that's that school that's where D'Angelo Russell in Ohio State that's where he went to school." But the whole entire point of storylines of the coolest things that happen in March Madness is what? It's these lower schools that no one knows where they're from that beats a blue blood, and then basically they go on a run. Like, who was that? Loyola Chicago back in
Yeah,
like the late 2010s. Like,
2016, I believe.
I
I
think it was
believe
like
was their run.
2019 if I remember correctly.
Was it
Because
Chicago or was it UMBC that was 16?
UMBC was a 16 team, but Loyola Chicago was that 11 seed that beat everybody. Was in that Final Four game. That was gonna. I
Yeah,
think that was like before. Like that was like UConn winning that if I remember correctly. But
I don't
it,
quite
again, like
remember.
that's. But there's a reason why it's called March Madness. We want these good teams in. We don't want. Hey, do you guys want to watch Minnesota, who's like on the bubble at 18 wins, to get over like a 28 win non-power four team? Yes. Okay, here it is. Like I don't. I hate to break it to you. If I swear to God, if I see a terrible Big Ten, if I see Kentucky get into March Madness over another team that is more deserving than a non-power four team, I will literally lose my mind.
I will say
This
they do
is
currently
such an
have Kentucky at
injustice.
100% chance to make it into March
I
Madness at this point.
And what's their record?
19-11 on the year.
Like, what are
that
we doing?
that
Well,
would
what
be
are
I
we
will
doing?
say Ohio State is also 19-11, and we are also currently projected at 100% chance to make it, which is
Oh my
ironic
God.
because Iowa is
Which-
20-10, but I think we beat Iowa if I recall like 2 weeks ago. Or no, we beat Purdue. I don't remember. I don't know what happened with that Iowa game. I couldn't watch that one, so
and you guys talking about Miami, Ohio's potentially undefeated season. I do have a trivia question for you guys. So, the last undefeated team going into the tournament was 2020-21 Gonzaga. They lost in the championship game. Who was the last team to go undefeated and win the tournament?
Ooh.
that's probably like a UCLA of like the
No,
early.
I think that's UNLV
This
back
this
in the 90s.
I will tell you this. This team is it used to be a basketball only school.
A basketball only school?
They're a football
Like,
school now.
oh,
Also,
okay. I see what you mean.
they're both
Also,
now.
the last team to
This
go
team this
perfect.
team just became like a football school as well.
Like when you say a football school, you mean like they have a program, or they're now known
They have
for their
a
football
they have a
program?
program, but they can now be known as a football school as well.
That's interesting. That's a
When you
tough
hear the
question.
name, it makes sense. It'll make sense. But, yeah.
It's Indiana, isn't it?
Indiana, yeah.
Ah,
1975,
I'm pretty sure.
76, the Bob Knight team.
Yeah,
They went
yeah,
27-0 that season. Their final record was 32-0 and won the tournament.
yeah. Bob Knight team's Ohio State alum, by the way. But anyways, that's besides the point. Anyways, no,
So-
I did double check it. Yeah, we lost by almost 20 to Iowa, and yet we're somehow projected to make the play or the March Madness more so than they are, which is just interesting. So it's just super interesting. You obviously got to consider quad one wins, things like that, but I just don't understand.
But that's what I hate about the resumes.
Yeah.
Like that, like it's the one thing that fans in college football right now hate, which is, oh, do you have a really good strength of schedule? Hey, Notre Dame, do you have a good non-conference strength of schedule because you refuse to join a conference? Oh, you do? Well, you get in because we put a memorandum in.
I will say though, I
into.
do think that the quad system has it's a better system overall than just the committee, in my opinion. I do think the quad system has at least some sort of parity, if that makes sense, because it's all it's all really just numbers at the end of the day. So I don't know. I just feel like the quad system is a lot better of a system for, again, it's technically a 68 team bracket because it's what the final four teams they play in, right, or something like
Yeah,
that.
I think it's like the 11 seeds and the 10 seeds have to fight.
Yeah. So,
No,
but
not the 10 seed. I think it's like it was like some 11s. I think it's like is it 10 or 6 seeds? It's one of those two.
But so I do think that overall the quad system is a good system. Maybe not a great system or a perfect system, but I do think it is a better system overall. But you kind of then run into the same problem of, okay, so should Kentucky at the start of the year been ranked in the top 10? Or should, North Carolina have been ranked in the top 10 to start the year? You run into those kind of problems. Not to say that they shouldn't have been, but, or like say like Indiana, usually a premier basketball school, should they have been ranked in the top 10? That one's more of an obvious answer of like, no, they shouldn't have. But you just kind of run into that kind of problem.
I just want to point this out because I'm looking at the MAC conference standings. Akron has 26 wins and 5 losses. And we are talking about whether or not Indiana or Kentucky is potentially making the tournament. If I was Akron, I want this system to burn down to the ground. Like, burn it. Because again, like, it points out to them, like, you can go undefeated, and then, like, Bruce Pearl's going to sit there and be like, oh, I don't think they're going to make it because, like, look at their strength of schedule. It's like, they beat the people in front of them, dude. It's like, I can't say that for Kentucky because Kentucky's dog water. Same thing with Indiana. It's not our fault that, hey, when the going gets tough, like, dude, let's be honest, it's basketball. And with the NIL era that we're in right now, like, it doesn't matter who is on your team anymore. It doesn't matter recruiting-wise who you get anymore. It matters about, like, who you have on your team and can you beat your teams in front of them. Akron has 26 wins. Miami's going for an undefeated season, and we're talking about Kentucky, Ohio State, and Indiana barely having 20-win seasons, and they're locked in to go to the NCAA tournament. Crime against humanity.
I do think that's a great point towards basketball and college specifically. I would be curious. I know you mentioned the exact point, but what their schedule is. I mean, if you look at common opponents, right? Let's think they're one of the common opponents, just for specifics argument's sake, just because of where we're at right now. We'll say Purdue, right? With Purdue and Ohio State. Ohio State beat Purdue. Purdue beat Akron by nearly 20. Uh, so you run in. That's again. I mean, I think that's the argument you'll get back is okay, but what about common opponents? Things like that. Miami, Ohio, I don't think played any Power 4 team necessarily. Like looking at their schedule, I mean, I don't see a true Power 4 team on here. So those, and again, not to say that that is necessarily the right argument. I just think that's the argument you will get. It's going to be that same type of pushback. Again, I'm of the firm belief Miami, Ohio should be making the tournament right now.
And I agree.
Again, and I think a big part of that is, just the way they're winning. It may not be pretty all the time. It maybe not be, 20, 30-point wins. Think like Michigan this year, who's been unbelievable, might I add. It's tough to say as an Ohio State fan, but they have been an unbelievable basketball team this year. But it's it's that grit. They haven't won every game in the most pretty way, but it's that grit. It's that drive that you don't see from a lot of teams. So put them up against a Power 4 team. They might be the 16 seed that goes on the run this year. They might be the 16 seed that goes and finally wins a March Madness. We never know. But that's the problem is if they don't get in, we never know, and we'll just never know it. Period. So that's the brutal part. That's the brutal nature of the schedule argument.
And the sad part about the fact that I personally have the mindset of I don't think it's the scheduling. I think it's the marketing. I think people want more name brand recognition teams than, hey, where is Akron? Where is Akron at on a map? And why are they called the Zips?
Yeah.
What is a zip?
It's a good question.
For all they know, that they think that could be a nickname for
even as an Ohioan, I don't actually really know what an Akron zip is. I'll just be honest with you. So,
or that's the problem with March Madness. Fact that it's no longer about who are the best teams. It's about who are the name brand recognition teams that can get more marketability, get more eyes on the game. And to me, I think that is the biggest problem with March Madness.
Well, it'll be interesting to see, how all these teams play out here as we get closer to the tournament. But very excited to see where it goes. And I'm looking at some really good teams right now. Talking about the World Baseball Classic, Team USA. As we're recording, they are currently playing against Brazil. Um, you guys, this is really fun because this is just coming off of the Winter Olympics. We just got to watch um, Team USA kill it in
Canadian tears.
hockey. We just got to watch them kill it in hockey, and now we're getting to watch our team being represented in baseball now. And this just kind of gets me excited as we get closer here to the MLB season. But currently watching our country fight in this baseball game, I'm very excited to see where this goes. You guys have any thoughts on just how this Team USA team's going to look overall going into this?
I'll let Peter truly open us up for that. For those wondering, the current score is 7-4 now, as Brazil did just hit a home run. So just in case y'all were
Right.
wondering where we are currently at in our viewing.
You got to blame Levi on that. You have to.
Yeah,
blame
you
Levi,
do. You
100%.
absolutely do.
Right, yeah, that was
But
my
yeah,
transition right there.
Go ahead
Yeah,
and open us
go
up, Peter, on what you think, because your thoughts. I'm really curious on your thoughts, specifically on Team USA, but even just teams around the league, the country,
Okay, so for
world.
those that are baseball fans or like non-baseball fans out there, this is the equivalent of like the dream team back in 92. Like this is possibly the best baseball team ever assembled from top down. And it's all around Aaron Judge. Like Aaron Judge is like what 32, 33 years old, and he is like the
Yeah,
best
I think
American
33.
he's the best American player that is on the planet. Again, notice how I said American player because there's a guy from the Los Angeles Dodgers that I cannot stress this enough. I want to look at Japan and just ask them, what are you feeding these players over in Japan?
Great
Because you
question.
have literally the equivalent of Steve Rogers on their team in Shohei Ohtani, who, no joke, can go out there and hit 40 home runs in a season, get like 50 steals, and then go out there and pitch a shutout game in like 9 innings. Like, no sense at all. But really, when you look at the United States team, like you have Paul Skeens, who nasty. You have obviously we talk about Aaron Judge. I mean, you have a bunch of guys on here really for America that really like again, the bullpen's great, the offense is great. Like again, like you have Bobby Witt Jr., Bryce Harper, you have Schwarber on that team as a cleanup hitter after Judge is hitting. Like that is insane. But for lack of a better term, if America fails to win the WBC, they're going to see us as one of the most colossal failures that America has put out in decades. Like we're talking like this is almost like kind of the equivalent of like what the United States did back in the 80s when they basically like were losing to the Soviets year in and year out, and they completely revamped the way that they did hockey in America. If they lose to Japan in the WBC, they're going to be completely reworking the way that they're going to be doing baseball in America, i.e., like we got to go back to fundamentals and not like analytics, or maybe like, hey, how about we just focus on making baseball affordable, like or focus on developmental stuff for kids, but the United States has to win. They have to.
Yeah, you
You know,
mentioned. Go ahead.
I was gonna say real quick, and I apologize to any of our Canadian viewers, but if this team does collapse, I just know the Canadians are gonna have a joyride watching the U.S. lose in baseball. Considering that this is an American sport we're talking about here, if we lose to, I don't know, if we lose in this tournament here, I just know Canadians are gonna have fun with that.
Yeah, Peter, you brought up some good points there, though, with the U.S. If we lose this, it is a colossal failure. I mean, you mentioned, uh, uh, Aaron Judge and Kyle Schwarber. you know, Bobby Witt, obviously. I mean, but you even got a guy, Cal Raleigh. I mean, we're talking
Big
probably
dumper.
one of, if not the best catchers in baseball right now. A guy like Bryce Harper, just a huge power bat, and just a good hitter all in all. I mean, these are guys like we're not just bringing in guys, like we're bringing in the guys, but
Hmm.
and you're the crazier part of it is then you go and you leave out Mike Trout. Now, I don't know if
Right.
Mike Trout just, decided to stay out. I didn't see much on that, or if he was just left out. But
I,
I
I
mean,
think
he didn't even.
I think the
He's not
problem
playing.
was like a lot of the teams were dealing with insurance problems.
Ah,
And I think if I remember correctly, I think Mike Trout was uninsured, and he's had a lot of back issues. Like he's in his like mid 30s right now,
yeah,
and let's be honest, like Mike Trout, like I'm pretty sure he wants out of Los Angeles, and he's trying to get healthy enough to where he can get traded and be on a playoff competitive team.
for sure.
But yeah, it sucks because like there's a lot of really good baseball players from America that are left off the team. But when you look at this American team, it's like they took the best available players that wanted to play and could play and put them on the roster. And then you're just looking at this roster and be like, how could this team lose?
Well, like you mentioned earlier, there is what is essentially the thorn in the hip, and that's the Japan team. I mean, just I mean, I think it's tough to say because I don't think there's gonna be a lot of people that know most of that roster outside of course, Shohei and, Yoshinobu Yamamoto.
Yamamoto.
I c struggling even to say his name, but,
Just say
like, those
Yoshi
are probably
Yamamoto, and it saves you so much
yeah.
time.
Yeah, those are probably gonna be, like, the 2 main players that people know for Japan, but a lot of people forget that Japan is a basketball, excuse me, baseball country. I mean, truthfully, if it's not the US, I mean, obviously it is the US, but Japan is the baseball country next to us, you know? They're
Mhm.
producing just as good of players as we are, outside of course Dominican Republic, places like that are producing more talent as opposed to like Japan is just essentially a baseball country, you know what I'm saying? But I mean that's just going to be tough. I mean, especially after what was the last one? Was it 22 was the last
23.
WBC? 23.
23.
Especially when you saw what happened that year with it came down to Mike Trout and Shohei on the mound. I it's gonna be tough to see Japan not be there again, you know what I'm saying? But,
Right. And like again, I don't know if you guys remember this. Like, do you guys like watch the Little League World Series growing up?
I watch it occasionally. I'll tune into the games if they're on, but it was never
Not
like
too
a main
much.
watch for me.
I remember like growing up, like watching the Little League World Series, and there was a stretch of time where no joke, Japan was like in the final for like 8, 9 years in a row. Because they are like straight up like filthy. They were really good at fundamentals. And mind you, these were like Little League teams that didn't have Shohei Otani. And again, like I just want to look at Japan and just go like they are just so fundamentally sound.
I
Like
agree. They are
there's
very
like defense they're great, pitching they're great, hitting like if you're not a great power hitter, you know what you're great at? You're great at contact. And they're great at running the base paths. They're great all around. And yeah, they beat America last year in the WBC final in one of the most iconic batting matchups where like Shohei Ohtani was pitching to Mike Trout, his teammate, and just struck him out in the filthiest slider that I've ever seen to close it out. So again, like I definitely know a lot of people are like, oh, like we want America to win this, but it's like if we lose to Japan, like
it's
everyone in the
something
world's gonna be like,
you can hang your hat on that.
yeah,
It's not like, it's not the biggest slap in the face in the world. I mean, you can put your hand up and say, "Hey, that's the better team today," you know? That's one
right.
where you look at it and you go, "This game could go either way. If they play 10 times, it might be 5 and 5," you know?
Yeah.
But
But again, I just think it all just boils down to like it's going to be the health of Shohei and it's going to be the health of really Japan in general
yeah.
that will determine on like whether or not like they're going to win. Because again, I'm going to be honest, like I don't really know much of uh Japan's depth outside of like Shohei, Roki Sasaki, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and then that uh Murakashi guy. He's the guy that signed with the White Sox recently. And
Oh
he's had
yeah,
big
yeah,
power
yeah,
back.
yeah.
And
They are they bringing back? Is Shota Imanaga? I believe is
Shota
he?
Imanaga, I don't know if he is back or not.
We'll take a look
I
at
don't
the
have the
roster
roster.
really quick.
Yeah, I don't have the roster in front of me,
I
but
don't see him, so I don't believe so.
gotcha. Okay. But either way, like that team is just again they're filthy. They're very top heavy, but the most of Japan's players are just really fundamentally sound from top to bottom.
Yeah, they're a very very refined team. I think would be the best way to put it overall,
Right.
Yeah, well,
especially
it'll be interesting to go
when
ahead.
you
Go
consider
ahead.
they put up 13 runs on China or Chinese to pie rather.
I know. I was just thinking about that. I mean, again, it just boils down to the fact that I don't know. Japan has inherited our sport, and now they've gotten really good at it, and now they have arguably the best player in Major League Baseball on their team. So I'll tell you, it really wouldn't surprise me if it came down to USA and Japan facing off in the championship.
I would like to add as well to that Shohei did hit a grand slam today, so
Well,
Nasty.
yeah.
he's gonna won the World Series last year. Sounds like he's gonna
It
be
also only went 7
doing
innings.
something more.
That's interesting. Is
I
there a
believe
mercy rule in the
Yeah, there's a mercy
WBC?
rule. I think it's like 10 runs after 7.
Ah,
that's
yeah.
actually crazy.
I didn't know about
That's actually
that. That's
crazy.
insane.
But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. So we'll have to definitely keep updates on Team USA as they go on. So going into our closing thoughts, our couch send off. I was curious. You guys have any like final thoughts? One thing I want to just mention. I was watching the Lakers game last night, and LeBron James he does now hold the record for the most field goals all time, just past Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 15,838 field goals.
Yeah, nobody cares.
That's my
Nobody
Yeah,
thoughts.
cares.
Yeah,
I don't think
as a
No,
anybody
LeBron
no,
fan,
cares.
nobody cares.
they'll care. They don't
Yeah,
care.
yeah, the Lakers are going to be in the play-in tournament at the end of the year, so nobody
That's
cares.
true. Just
LeBron's
remember,
my go.
it also took LeBron 2 extra years to pass the field goal mark. Just keep that in mind. So
True.
2 more
Uh,
years for him to pass that.
Viewers, if you want a show where we actually ran about the LeBron Jordan debate, please let us know in the comments, and we will make that happen.
Oh,
You will
God,
hate
you don't
your
want
lives
that.
if that happens.
Yeah,
But it could be
you were
pretty
going to sit
entertaining.
here possibly for an hour and a half listening to 3 guys that know very little about basketball talk about basketball.
That we should say that follow basketball very closely, at least in the
Professional
NBA.
basketball.
Yes,
Professional
specifically
basketball.
NBA.
Yeah.
We all know
Yeah.
basketball, but I personally have slowly followed less and less of the NBA personally. But
But
I would like to
anyway,
add
that's
on
what
that
I'll leave
closing
myself.
thoughts. Yeah, on closing thoughts. I'm gonna flip over to the NHL scene and just talk about my Blue Jackets. I'm a Columbus Blue Jackets fan. For those that are joining us and wondering, currently kind of hot, kind of really hot since bringing in Rick Bonus as a coach and just made a trade for Connor Garland. I think is his name. I don't quite recall his name. But really exciting as we come down to the end of the NHL season and get into the Stanley Cup. So I'm really looking forward to that. So
Very good.
Yeah, and my thoughts as well. Like I'm currently watching Illinois State play Northern Iowa. I'm going to be keeping an eye on Arch Madness going on because that is going to be a very big tournament to see who's going to win the NBC title. It's going to be interesting because again, with Belmont out, it's going to be interesting to see who's going to get the crown on that end. I'm also interested to see what's going to happen next week when we get into Power Four tournaments. The Big Ten tournament is going to be a hodgepodge of who's going to be the last team standing and who's going to be throwing some haymakers. But overall, I am super excited to see March Madness come to fruition.
I agree. I'm very excited for March Madness. Very, very excited.
We can't wait. We got a lot of exciting sports on the horizon. Finishing off with baseball, and we got March Madness coming up here. Like, and the MLB season will just be kicking off as well. So like we're in a very exciting phase for sports. So I cannot wait for that. So. But I just want to thank everybody. This is of course our first podcast, so I want to thank everybody that decides to listen to us and join us on this journey. As one of our final segments, we're from the couch, so every once in a while we're going to rate a couch. So fellas, I did send you a picture of our couch. We're gonna rate this couch a 1 out of 10. What do you guys think of this couch?
Oh God, what the heck is this? Is
I
this leather?
personally think this unironically looks like the couch that's probably in your grandma's basement because she never got past like the 80s. But it's also probably an insanely comfortable couch. But it's probably super cold until you've been on it for a while, then it's like unbearably hot. So I'd give it like a cool 6.5 out of 10.
Okay. Is this leather?
This looks like leather. It's like a leather couch.
Oh my gosh.
And this also, it kind of looks like, a couch you'd see from like, I don't know, maybe like the 70s or 80s. It looks like that kind of time period. Yeah, it looks like it's leather. Again, it kind of looks like it could be comfy. And actually, Aiden, it kind of reminds me maybe like our aunt and uncle's couch they have in their house.
Yeah, I did get vibes of that couch. I do agree.
So when I see that couch, I do kind of think of that. And just from my mind of sitting on that couch, it can be fairly comfy. And I think you kind of looking at that, I feel like you would actually like sink into your seat from that. So in terms of comfiness and overall, I'd probably give it. I'm probably going to give it like a 7 out of 10, just from my experience alone with a couch like that.
This couch kind of reminds me of like the Browns' alternate uniforms, that all brown uniform. It gives me the vibes of like if this like right above it again, like I don't know if the viewers like they're like listening to this like are like it's a brown leather couch that has a lot of like space in it. And I'm just thinking of like, I would not be surprised if there was like a little like hidden message that says sponsored by Dude Wipes, like right above it. Here's my problem. I grew up having a leather couch. I hate leather couches because personally for me, here's a problem. Over the years, leather couches crack, and it's bad. It's bad. And personally for me, like it goes to your point. If you're on like a nice cool day and you sit on that couch, it is like the worst thing in the world. Because like you just sit and you're like, dang, this is like cold. I'd probably give it like a 5. It's an average couch. There's no personality to it. It's like the Browns' alternate uniforms. No personality. Probably not a great idea. There's a reason why leather couches don't exist in the 21st century.
Wow. I was going to say, like, considering the fact you were comparing it to the Browns alternate jersey, I thought you were really just going to go the full dumpster fire route like the Cleveland Browns. So I guess well done. 5 out of 10.
Yeah, 5 out of 10 due to the fact that you can actually sit on it. And I will say, when leather seats get warm, it's very nice.
Very nice.
Well,
thank you. I want to say just thank you guys for just again for getting the idea of starting this, and we again just thank the viewers for watching. And if you watched this far, give us your ratings of the couch in the comments below.
For those that are viewing the video, we should add for those that are viewing the video. If you're listening, you're probably not seeing the picture of the couch, so just imagine the picture of the couch in your head and give us your rating still.
Well, we'll make sure that you get it. So, but I guess, do you guys have any final thoughts then, I guess, before we kick off?
Nothing on my end. Nothing on my end.
I'm all good on my end too.
Well, thanks again so much, guys, for watching. This has been From the Couch, and we look forward to talking to you guys soon. So in the meantime, enjoy your sports, and we will see you guys another day. Take care.